one of the normal daily routines of a teenage girl or teenage guy. If they're together or even not together, they just do it.
Half the relationships that look like relationships are actually just casual sex.
For guys, it's a competition as to who can have the most, who has the most kills, who slept with the most girls.
They would watch porn and watch those videos to learn from it and then practice with each other.
I just went into the bathroom with my two friends and took my top off and took a picture and sent it to him. By the next day, everybody in the school had it.
What does it mean that we're bringing up a generation of boys on pornography? This is a massive social experiment we're undergoing now.
I don't think we should deny adult entertainment and use the excuse that kids could see it.
It's become commonplace that these adult brands like Playboy that are built around sex are trying to reach 4- and 5-year-olds. This is purely about trying to sell more clothing, more merchandise.
Girls that look 15 now, they're actually like 10. Girls just tell a guy they want to have sex and they do.
Sex sells. It's an idea propelling tens of billions of dollars in advertising and media content revenue every year. Teenage audiences have more exposure to media than any generation in history. And with vast amounts of disposable income, media content creators are continually ramping up the use of sex to reach them. But what is the effect of this on teen culture?
So let's talk about sex. How much time do you think about sex?
How often do you think about sex? Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. Oh my God.
The definition of sex in our society and our generation has completely changed.
Yeah. Sex used to be something that happened between a man and a woman who were married. And it was something special. Nowadays, kids throw it around like it's nothing.
Media has made sex like something we constantly talk about. I think a lot of more kids are aware of it, and at a young age, they're starting to get into it.
Sexual objectification is the process of treating another individual like they're an object who exists for your sexual pleasures. We're in a new era of sexual objectification where it's not only become normalized, it's actually been embraced.
People don't really get into relationships as much. It's more of a, I talk to you, we hook up, and that's it.
Sex is almost encouraged in a way, in a very casual sense, but they're not saying, but while you're there, be safe or think of this. It's just like, do it because it'll feel good, and that's the end of that.
We see increases in sexually objectifying media, whether it's television, film, magazines, video games, music videos.
The amount of sex used in advertising has nearly doubled in the past 20 years.
We are exposed to more objectifying images than we have ever been exposed to. We know that in the 1970s, we saw about 500 advertisements per day. The average American now sees over 5,000 advertisements per day that come to us in all different forms. What marketers have to do in order to cut through the clutter is present shocking images, more hypersexualized images.
Teens engaged with high levels of media with sexual content are twice as likely to become sexually active before they turn 16, and twice as likely to experience pregnancy in the next 3 years.
You go to a club and you just hook up. You guys never talk again, you know. It's just,
what do you mean by hook up?
You hook up, yeah.
To us, the hookup is like having sex.
It's no big deal.
It's casual.
It's just like
I don't know, it's just really, like,
It doesn't really mean anything to have a relationship really anymore because it's just so casual with people. It's like, oh, yeah, I just went and did that.
1 in 3 teens over 14 years old are currently sexually active. And more than half of those have had sexual partners they are not dating.
I'm not morally concerned about hookup culture. I'm approaching it as a social scientist. What concerns me the most about hookup culture is that young men and women who are engaging in it, a vast majority of them report that they're not happy with it.
2/3 of all sexually active teens wished they had waited longer to have sex.
I would say that half the relationships that look like relationships are actually just casual sex. They make movies about it. 2 movies in the same year came out, Friends with Benefits and No Strings Attached. 2 movies about completely friends just having sex.
I can work with that.
Should be fine.
It's gonna be okay.
So those 2 movies came out when I was in grade 11. And then I got pregnant.
In an instant, Jessica's life changed forever.
I had been with this one guy for a year, and he completely was just like, well, why aren't we doing it yet? And I was in grade 10, so I was just like, well, because like I'm not even used to kissing yet. I don't even like kissing yet. So as I became pregnant and told him about it, he automatically flipped out, didn't want anything to do with it, and he stuck to his word on that.
How did your dad respond?
He told me he never wanted to talk to me again. One of the first things he said was, why didn't you get an abortion, or is it too late? And I automatically just started crying because I can't even kill a spider, let alone a human being.
Jessica's schoolmates created a Facebook page to publicly mock her pregnancy on social media. When she finally gave birth to a son, hemorrhaging nearly caused her death.
I was on so many drugs to keep myself stabilized that I couldn't stay up all night and take care of him, so I was just burdening my family. So I ended up falling into a very deep depression after I gave him up for adoption. So in August last year, I checked into the mental ward at Joseph Brant Hospital because I knew I was going to kill myself that night.
Through counseling and professional help, Jessica finally got out of the worst of her depression.
I completely understood after it had happened why people should be waiting till they have like a marriage and everything. I wish you could listen to yourself 5 years from now when when you have a baby in your hand saying like, wow, this was not what I expected. So I understand why people wait until they're 23, 25. I think that would have been the perfect age. But 13 was definitely not a good age.
Young people today are more depressed than Americans have ever been. And there are many causes of this, but one of the primary causes, certainly for women, is the fact that they're asked to be sex objects. And it ends up hurting their self-esteem. It ends up causing them to have eating disorders and causes higher rates of depression.
Do you want to feel safe when you have sex? Do you want to feel like I can trust you that tomorrow morning you're not going to leave? That in 6 months you will still be here?
This idea of casual sex, that, oh, you can just have a one-night stand, it's no big deal. Unfortunately, the science would say, no, it is a big deal. And your brain is being shaped by this. And there's a reason that you desire that person or crave that person afterwards. And many times I find teenagers and young adults beat themselves up. I can't get over him, or why can I not get her out of my mind? Well, you were actually designed to not get over that person. We've just taken it out of the best context and we've misused it.
When individuals engage in sex and sexual activity, a number of neurochemicals are elevated. And dopamine gives this feeling of elation and the desire for more of the experience. norepinephrine is also released, and that creates a searing effect, burning the experience in the brain. Oxytocin is also released, creating this bond in the relationship, and serotonin is also released, creating this calming and feeling good effect.
It's prom night, I've just had a sexual experience with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, and then we break up. That bonding is still there, that desire for that person is still there, but now there's no longer the context for that fulfillment. And so what we're left with is this brokenness and this disconnect of, I want more of you, but you're actually not mine to have.
Having sex in the teenage years doubles the likelihood of girls getting depressed. On television, however, the consequences of underage sex are rarely shown, and the amount of sexual scenes has doubled in the past 10 years. Dean Batali, a Hollywood screenwriter, has written for programs with some of the highest sexual content on primetime television.
I'll give an example for that 70s show. We were doing an episode where two of the characters were going to have sex for the first time.
Eric! Donna, this is a tricky maneuver, okay? I need quiet.
And the showrunner, the person in charge, said, well, let's talk about the first time each of us had sex. Well, I was an anomaly in that room because I didn't have sex for the first time until I was married. And when I revealed this to the other writers, they looked at me like I had 3 heads because they didn't even understand that people like me existed.
How often do you see couples that remain virgins on television?
Not often.
Not often or never. Very rarely. Yeah. The show Awkward, there was this one like crazy hardcore Christian girl, and she was abstinent, but like they made it to be a joke in the show.
Like, oh my
like,
gosh,
it
she
wasn't
had a
taken
boyfriend
seriously.
and she didn't have sex. She's weird.
Now it's kind of a self-perpetuating myth that you have to be edgy, have to have nudity in order to make movies or TV shows work. Cable shows have upped the ante on sexuality, but no cable show gets the kind of ratings that anything on major networks gets. So there's a huge myth here that this is what has to be.
The media is very powerful to a lot of people, so when they see something, they think that's okay, that's what I should be doing because it's on TV.
It basically brainwashes us, like to think that sex is perfectly fine and there's nothing wrong about it and it's not special, it's just something that you do for pleasure.
More than 75% of primetime television programs contain sexual content, with talk about sex as often as 8 to 10 times per hour. It's not only the quantity of sex on television that's impacting teens, but how it's portrayed.
You always see some intense like sex scene or something going on, or eventually going on in like a TV series or something like that.
But like in movies, they just go straight to the point and it's not really realistic.
Media makes women look like they're just there for sex. When it comes to talking with a girl in real life, you kind of always have that in the back of your mind. Like, you just relate it back to what you see in the media.
If someone says like they want to stay a virgin, then they don't want to have sex until like they're married. Most of their friends will like push them until like either they do it or they're not friends anymore.
This is my big frustration with Hollywood, that people who wait are abnormal. It's always the big deal of a character who is a virgin or something all the way through high school, when that really is the norm. Well, the norm for these writers was they were having sex in high school, so those are the stories that they're going to tell.
Up next, what sexualization looks like today and why children are being targeted. Teen realities are starting to resemble their fictionalized portrayals on television. While 52% of all high school students in the US have never had sex, 63% of high school seniors are sexually active. But long before there are pressures to actually have sex, young people are feeling pressures to be sexy.
A beautiful woman in media is like this tall, sexy, tanned woman with long, skinny legs.
Perfect woman is someone who has perfect skin, perfect hair,
big boobs, and blue eyes, blonde hair.
She has like gorgeous hair, she's super skinny, she's tall, and they're mostly white.
What you described to me, it sounded kind of like a Barbie doll.
Yeah, it basically is a Barbie doll.
Even Barbie.
Barbie kind of gave you like a goal. It gave you like something that you thought you were gonna grow up to be like her, like tall and skinny, like long hair, curvy, and that's not how anybody looks.
As a little girl, it was like, why doesn't my body go in like that and then come back out?
You thought that's what boys wanted you to look like, and that you needed to look like for boys to like you.
Experts believe that messages girls receive at a young age about beauty and sex appeal can have a significant psychological impact.
These products say to little girls that what's valuable about them is what they look like and how appealing they are to boys.
Sexualization is the idea that girls get their worth from their sex appeal and how they appear to other people. That is the defining thing that makes them who they are.
That's how they get rewards in life. That's how they get popular, that's how they get jobs, that's how they feel good about themselves, by self-sexualizing.
Barbie always had like, she'd wear shirts that like had her stomach showing or like really short shorts. Yeah. Like all their clothing is revealing.
I did compare myself to Barbie and say, why am I not like this? Why is my hair flowing? Why don't I have like this lifestyle even though it was like all fake and plastic?
It sets you up for thinking that even when you get older, that you need to wear that to like have a sex appeal.
A very interesting study just came out recently that showed that girls that played with Barbie saw themselves as having less career possibilities than boys do.
She holds her phone, or to bend over to serve lemonade. If Barbie were a real person, she would have a body mass index equivalent to an anorexic woman. She would be too thin to be able to menstruate.
I'll make believe that I am you.
Girls aged 5 to 8 exposed to unrealistically thin dolls have increased risk of disordered eating and weight cycling.
Bratz really changed things. They saw that by making the skirts even shorter and wearing incredibly sexualized outfits that they had a hugely successful brand. Monster High's whole thing is about accepting difference. But really, the dolls are sexualized in the same way that all the other dolls are. They're skinnier, actually, even than probably any other doll out there for girls, pretending to be an empowering message for girls.
With sales well into the billions each year, toy stores have become packed with ultra-thin girl dolls.
The reason that girls are being sexualized is because there's a lot of money in it. It's a very successful method to get girls to want products, to get girls to nag their parents for products. It's not that the companies care about sexualizing girls, it's that they can sell products by doing it. This is purely about trying to sell more clothing, more merchandise.
The way that marketers define being grown up across the board is by looking and acting sexy. They're playing on girls' natural inclination to want to be like their older sisters.
The marketers call it kids are getting older younger, and they act like this is just like a natural phenomenon that's happened and that they play no part in it.
In 1983, companies in the U.S. spent $100 million per year marketing products to children. Now, they spend $17 billion each year, an increase of 17,000%. Major U.S. clothing manufacturers are now marketing child-targeted lingerie and creating products like padded breasts on swimsuits for prepubescent girls. A stripper pole from a major British retailer has been designed for kids aged 11 and up. Today, even pornography brands are marketing to children.
It's become commonplace that these adult brands like Playboy that are built around sex are trying to reach 4- and 5-year-olds.
I'm telling you that I am both a bunny and incredibly sexy.
They actually had a Playboy product placement in the G-rated children's movie Hop, which is about the Easter Bunny.
In the wake of their popular pornography business, Playboy debuted their fashion line to wild success, and shortly after created teen-targeted clothing, then launched its color cosmetic line with lip liners and glosses marketed to sexy, young, cool girls. In 2012, Playboy entered Sears, marketing to teens and tweens. In 2014, Playboy began marketing to toddlers.
Playboy and Hello Kitty now have a bunch of co-branded products as a way of introducing the Playboy brand for who Hello Kitty is really popular with. It's been a process where it's moved from 14 to 10 to 8 to 6. It becomes a little more normalized, becomes a little less shocking, and that's how we end up where we are today.
As more sexualized products are marketed directly to children, children are aspiring to be like the images they're sold.
I think the next step of your physical body and like your outlook is when you see models coming, because I think that's like the Barbie and Bratz coming to life.
As a young kid, you start reading like these girly magazines. There's all this stuff about making people like you and how to change yourself to make people like you.
If you saw like boys looking at a picture of a model, you think, oh, they like that, you want to look like that, but you know that they're being photoshopped.
I mean, girls already have a lot of anxiety in adolescence too about fitting in and looking good and will I ever be loved? Will I ever be famous? Will I ever be accomplished in some way? Marketers play on that insecurity.
When girls and women grow up in a society that asks them to be sex objects and tells them that being a body is the most valuable thing they can be, you know, an attractive body, a sexy body, we tend to internalize that. So this internalization, this process is called self-objectification. And the more you self-objectify, the greater your likelihood of being depressed, of having an eating disorder. It lowers your cognitive functioning. It lowers your self-esteem. It lowers your political voice or your confidence. It lowers your GPA.
Despite the psychological effects of sexualizing behavior, people are spending more money than ever before on products and services marketed towards increasing sex appeal. The fastest growing segment of this market is products targeted at children.
And the queen gets a rhinestone tiara and sash. So in photogenic, our
little girls grow up and they see supermodels and they get so much attention and everybody considers them beautiful and they just seem so happy and confident. So that's what inspired me to get involved in the industry. As a young girl, you know, I was really influenced by the media and billboards, different ads in stores. It really had a big effect on me in a very negative way. I started modeling when I was 14, and one of my very first photo shoots, they put tons of makeup on me, push-up bra, and really, really short skirts and low-cut tops. And the photographers would tell you, you're so sexy, you're so beautiful. And I just started wanting more of that. I started craving it.
Kylie climbed in the modeling ranks and moved from Las Vegas to New York, beating out 10,000 other models to become a Victoria's Secret angel. Basudi shocked the modeling industry when she suddenly quit her Victoria's Secret contract over a moral dilemma.
Everything is just such an illusion that these girls are looking at, thinking that they have to live up to that. These images are being seen by millions of people, and the models are being photoshopped themselves. I mean, some of the images that I would see of myself, they absolutely don't even look like me. Even the models can't live up to their own images of themselves. How are the girls gonna live up to it? I really believe that girls should just take the pressure off and start, you know, standing up for themselves and saying we don't have to look a certain way to be considered beautiful in this world. We don't have to buy this product or these fake eyelashes or do this to change ourselves. We are who we are, and we're beautiful in who we are.
I think similar to kind of, you know, realizing that dirty air is toxic, we're starting to wake up to the fact that these images are toxic.
Numerous sexualizing products and images have been pulled from the market simply as a result of consumers raising their concern.
17 magazine decided to stop airbrushing its models because of a campaign run by a 14-year-old that garnered a lot of media attention and over 200,000 signatures on a change.org petition.
The media is telling us that we're not good enough.
Social media has opened avenues to bring about change in this arena that we simply have never had before.
Coming up, how one industry is changing the whole sexual landscape of North America. With the explosion of social media has come unprecedented opportunity for those seeking social change. However, the personalizing nature of new technologies has also allowed one notorious industry to grow exponentially and arguably have the largest impact on today's sexual culture.
I think we have to recognize that our children are now born into a culture awash with hypersexualized images. So before they can even talk, they are surrounded by images of women saying, "Come get me." However, no matter what they learn through MTV, no matter what they learn through the men's magazines, no matter what they learn through movies, nothing prepares them for pornography. When they put porn into Google, they are catapulted into a world they have never seen before. And what the internet did is it made pornography affordable, it made it anonymous, and it made it accessible.
Yeah, porn's like widespread in high school. If you say that you don't watch porn, people probably think you're lying.
Pornography is on the cell phone of almost every boy in the school.
And it's talked about, it's watched, it's recorded,
it's shared,
it's everywhere.
Emailed, it's text messaged.
All guys are proud of watching porn. They don't have any shame to hide. The guy will watch porn and then he'll want to do the stuff they do there in like the videos they're watching and then pressure their girlfriend to do it.
They see what happens in the porn and then they think they want to do that, but maybe the girls don't want to do that.
One of the reasons that people are watching pornography, based on what they see on television, what they see in porn, they try to act it out.
Pornography has become the dominant form of sex education today. It has become the dominant way of representing women's bodies. It has become the dominant way of representing sex and sexuality.
30% of all data transferred across the internet is pornography, with porn sites receiving 450 million unique visitors each month.
One of the things that porn does is recondition the mind and how you view the world, how you view sex, how you approach relationship.
They see it as an education because the way it might be taught in school or in church or by their parents, usually it's not taught by them at all. I had a friend that her old boyfriend, they would watch porn and watch those videos to learn from it and then practice with each other, and like they were like 15 years old.
70% of men and 30% of women look at pornography on a regular basis. 90% of teens aged 13 to 14 have accessed sexually explicit material in the past year.
So let's go back a generation or two. Let's think about your 14-year-old boy, hormones raging. How did he have access to pornography? But he had limited access. Today, he is just a click away, not from Playboy or Penthouse, that's finished. He is a click away from what we used to call hardcore porn. Ultimately, pornography is generic, it's formulaic, it's boring. Because there's no connection, because there's no intimacy, because there's a built-in boredom factor, what the pornographers need to do is keep ratcheting up the violence. Nearly 90% of the top rented and viewed porn scenes had either physical, sexual, and/or verbal abuse against the woman.
And they get controlled, like they're being dominated and like they're being violated. And then like that gives boys our age the idea that they can do whatever they want to girls, and it's gonna look like that.
pornography is based off looks and sex appeal. So when you're having a conversation with a girl, you're gonna have that in the back of your mind when talking with a girl, and you're sort of gonna be focused on how can you get to that level of like having sex with the girl.
The guys would be like, oh, well, I had sex with her. And then it's like, oh yeah, you got that in? Like really for guys, it's a competition as to who can have the most, who has the most kills, who slept with the most girls. Guys feel if they begin to love the girl that they had sex with, they're soft. You had sex with her, why do you need to love her? But if you've had sex with her and then you've had sex with her best friend, you're amazing.
In the porn world, the word no doesn't exist. Women never say no. It doesn't matter what they do to her. The message of porn is that the more you can break her, the more violent, the more you can terrorize her, the more she likes it.
Up next, why porn is impacting sex on campuses everywhere. As an underage teen in the 1990s, Shelley Lubin became a porn actor and has watched the industry further devolve into what it has become today.
These young boys are learning hardcore, repulsive, degrading, violent acts. Basically, pornographic films come down to usually 18, 19, 20-year-old girls who are called to come on the set. And they're put up in a shabby hotel. And the next day they wake up and there's like 7 guys that they're supposed to have a gangbang with, and they're 18 years old.
How old were you when you started looking at porn?
Probably like 14.
And how did you get it?
Me and my cousin, she was like, did you see this? And I was like, no, and I was pretty innocent, so I don't know, I just went along with it, and I was like, wow, how does that work? Like.
Ron Jeremy is a pornography advocate and porn actor who has appeared in over 2,000 adult films.
What about the youth of America? I mean, the crisis of kids today, a pornified culture.
I'm not trying to advertise. I don't want kids to watch porn, you know?
But how can they not? I mean...
I don't think we should deny adult entertainment and use the excuse that kids can see it. If that's the case, you gotta ban Seagram 7, gotta ban all alcohol, because kids might get to it. With the internet going on the phone, now it's they see whatever the kids see whatever they want. But the adult industry has tried.
They want younger teenagers to become porn addicts so they become consumers. Pornography and masturbation and sex, it's very taboo, it's very embarrassing, but it needs to be talked about.
Some boys are watching half an hour. We've now got studies of some boys watching between 6 to 8 hours of porn a day. Now that is basically porn addiction.
So because of the neurochemicals that are at play in the process of watching porn, this addictive feeling, this appetite for wanting more is now being created, and they seem never to have enough.
Sex in pornography is almost always unprotected. 1 in 4 teens today have sexually transmitted infections. Over 9 million American youths aged 15 to 24 are infected every year.
I only did 30 movies and I got 2 STDs. I caught herpes. Back then I woke up like at 1 p.m. because I went to bed like, 7 a.m. And I looked in the mirror and I went, oh, what are all these blisters on my face? Oh my God. I open my mouth and there's a quarter-sized blister on the back of my throat. I look like a monster. They told me, you can't get any utensils near your daughter. The towels, you can't get towels, you can't even be near your daughter. So I'm like, I'm irresponsible. I don't even pay my electric bill. I don't pay my rent. I don't do anything. I'm a stupid porn star. So I tried to commit suicide. I took about 30 pills, and I just kissed my daughter goodbye. I said, Mommy loves you. I ended up in the hospital, and they pumped my stomach, and I lived.
Typical female porn actors last approximately 3 to 5 months in the industry. Many sex workers develop substance addictions.
When you study pornography as an industry, what is the most astounding thing about this? It is probably the only multi-billion-dollar a year above-ground industry that is virtually deregulated completely. Also, there's never been a question of should we let our children, any age, have access to hardcore porn.
I get tens of thousands of emails from porn addicts who say, I was 9 years old, my father looked at Playboy, I was subjected to Playboy, I started masturbating, blah, blah, blah. They write me, go, help me. And I go, throw out your computer.
As technology has gotten more personalized and privatized, the porn industry has flourished and spawned the advent of sexting, sending and receiving sexy text messages and nude photos via mobile devices.
Sexting, it's exactly what you would imagine as an outgrowth of a porn culture. If you are brought up with hypersexualized pornographic images all around you, and then you have a camera in your hand, what you're going to produce in that camera is exactly the images that you've seen.
Like if you're trying to get a guy's attention, then sometimes just talking to them isn't enough. You want to like show them parts of you.
But what makes sexting so much different is that you actually know this person and you see them around school, so it adds a level of excitement.
Like you could say stuff like, look at me, like you could have this or something like that.
The competition with boys to see how many nude pictures they can get, but then girls, they do it so that
they think
get attention.
That would be a relationship. If I send you my nude body,
we have a connection.
We have a connection because I wouldn't just send my nude body to everybody.
You like get comfortable with them, you start talking about like things that you want to do, and then like you kind of just ask for a nude picture, and
it's kind of like an agreement that you just go back and forth.
When like a guy gets a sex message, sometimes if they can, they'll send it out to everyone.
Once a boy gets it, he's immediately gonna be like, dude, look, she just sent me a picture of her boobs.
An estimated 1 in 4 teens have sent sext messages. Allison's story of sexting is a familiar occurrence among youth across the continent.
He texted me and said that he would get back together with me if I sent him a picture. So I just went into the bathroom with my 2 friends and took my top off and took a picture and sent it to him. I didn't think that anything would happen because my friend had taken pictures before and nothing had happened to her. But he never answered my text message, and by the next day, everybody in the school had it.
I didn't find out about it until 2 weeks later, and Allie had already gone through hell. I didn't know about it. I got a call from the high school at work that there was a topless picture going around of my daughter.
Girls threatened to beat me up. I got death threats because their boyfriends got the picture, and people vandalized my house. They put paint cans in my pool, and they rolled a tire through my glass front door.
People hear bullying and they think bullying back in our day, where 1 kid, 2 kids would bully you for maybe even an hour or something. This is 100 kids, and it's not an hour, it's non-stop. It's morning, noon, and night. It's your email, it's your phones, it's on the bus, it's at school, it's outside of school, it's on the street, it's everywhere. And someone said to me, why couldn't you stop? And I said, how do you stop 200 people?
For 3 years, I didn't talk about my story at all. I denied it to everybody and anybody. And then I saw on the news that Jesse Logan had committed suicide because of it. And shortly afterwards, there was another story about Hope Witzel.
The 14-year-old Florida girl sent a topless photo of herself to a boy in hope of gaining his attention. Instead, she got the attention of her entire school. Like Jessica, Hope's story was equally tragic.
Hope had gone to the school psychologist for help, and they had told her, you know, we see that you've been cutting yourself. You need to sign a contract that you won't harm yourself. And she signed it, but they never called her parents, and that night she went home and hung herself.
Coming up, why millions of teens today are choosing a new sexual attitude. Sexting, date rape, and casual sex is part of the dominant sexual culture today that experts believe is rooted in pornography.
The sexual scripts, or what used to be considered normal sex, have shifted. So we see an increase in oral and anal sex. At the same time, we see a decrease in heterosexual copulation.
What hookup sex is actually porn sex. It's sex with no connection, except no intimacy. And when you're done with her, you're really done. You're finished, and you're on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
Dissatisfied with today's sexual norms, teens are searching for more fulfilling alternatives.
They're not about like, oh, I'm gonna take you on a date and then from there it goes on. It's just like, I wanna have sex with you. Either you have sex with me or you don't, or else I move on to the next girl. I've had a guy actually, I didn't know him, and he messaged me on Facebook and was like, you're really pretty and I wanna have sex with you. Like, and I was like, wow, like, you're so disrespectful.
I just feel like it's better to have like a meaningful relationship instead of just like a fling or something like that. You know, it's just, it's not as fulfilling if you just have sex and then are nothing else.
Nobody likes it emotionally. In fact, a majority of people who go into hookup culture, who go into a hookup, do expect or are looking for a relationship. But the problem is that hookups don't necessarily get you there. You have a lot of random or casual sex along the way that is not particularly fulfilling.
So my approach is to say, let's become sex positive in the way we talk. Not that we are encouraging young people to go have sex, but instead that we're getting them excited about waiting. So they're waiting out of expectation instead of out of fear. There's brain chemistry going on when you are sexually connected to someone, when you're, involved in sexual intercourse. The whole body is coming to bear. A little piece of latex is going to reduce your risk, but it only reduces one risk in one area. And you as a person are so much more than that. You're so much more than just your body. You're supposed to have sexual desires. You're supposed to be attracted to people and to want this eventually, but there is a right and a good time for it, a better time for it. When you look at the research, the best sex takes place within marriage. The people that are most sexually satisfied, people that are experiencing it the most, people that are emotionally most connected, marriage. So sex has a role to play, and it's fantastic.
Married people aged 18 to 24 have sex 5 times more frequently than singles of the same age, and report the sex is more emotionally satisfying and fulfilling. In the wake of all of these stats, more and more teens are beginning to delay their first sexual encounter, with 61% of teens stating they would like to be a virgin when they are married. So what should a healthy teen relationship look like?
When a relationship is built off just looks, it's gonna be a fake relationship and you're not really gonna know the person.
It's like a broken record, people being like, don't give in to peer pressure, and like you hear that all the time, but it's like you really need to like let it sink in and make sure you need to stand up for yourself.
A relationship that's like, it's not all about sex, you just want to be around each other just because you like each other's company and you want to be together.
I say if you put guidelines in a relationship, like you both decide not to have anything sexual, then you're really gonna get to know the person. You're gonna have more of like a emotional relationship.
You can't take back stuff like having sex. Like, you can't go back on it once it happens, it's done. Like, it's not something that you can look back and regret it, but you can't take it back.